Hello everyone, and welcome back to Secrets Behind the Stars. I hope your day is bright, your heart is open, and you are ready for a story that reaches right into the quiet places we often guard. Today we journey through a narrative that does not tiptoe around pain or pretend love is effortless. It is a story about two people we know so well, two artists whose public smiles often hide private storms, and how together they learn to dismantle walls brick by brick. Consider this an invitation to feel, to remember, and to believe again in a love that does not surrender when things get hard. Before we begin, if you want more stories that pull back the curtain on the lives that inspire us, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so every new chapter finds you right on time. Our focus today is on Halil Ibrahim Sayhan and Sıla Turkoglu, two stars whose paths, at first glance, seem to run side by side without promise of ever merging. They belong to different rhythms, different beginnings, and different defenses. Imagine two distant constellations, each bright in its own right, destined to be admired from afar. And yet something in the universe always conspires when hearts are ready. No grand trumpet sounded the moment they drew closer, no fireworks announced it. There was simply a quiet pull, an almost imperceptible thread that tugged them into alignment. Not fairy dust. Not a royal script. Just life and courage, and a meeting of souls determined to be seen. Sıla did not step into this world without scars. Early on, she learned the language of pressure and the hush of loneliness that sometimes follows ambition. Long hours on set, whispered opinions, the ache of expectation, and the logistical grind that gnaws at sleep and family time and the fragile space where self-worth builds itself back up. There is a strength you build when you endure, and there is a shell you build when tender moments have gone unanswered for too long. In her, both existed, pulsing like two chords in the same melody. Halil, for his part, arrived with a different kind of history. Not louder, not smaller, simply different. A life threaded with music, poetry, and the kind of sensitivity that feels like a gift until the world asks you to be harder than your heart prefers. He knew audiences and deadlines, but he also knew the quiet insistence of doubt. There is a burden to being the steady one, the calm voice, the unshakable figure in a storm. It can become a mask. And yet beneath it, Halil carried a clear gaze, one that reads the room beneath the room, sensing what is unspoken and hearing the tremor in a sentence even when the smile is flawless. Their first real meeting did not have to be dramatic to be life-changing. Maybe it was a lingering conversation between takes, a shared laugh over an awkward rehearsal, a glance exchanged when the room grew too loud. What matters is that the moment arrived, and in it was the kind of recognition that knocks gently before it chooses to stay. Something in Sıla saw kindness without agenda. Something in Halil found a truth he could not ignore. The cadence of each other's voices turned familiar, like a song you have never heard before but somehow already know. When two public lives begin to intertwine, there are always walls built long before the first touch. There are walls of opinion and career and rumor. There are money walls that dictate what is possible, time walls that split schedules into barely compatible pieces, family walls constructed from worry, and fear walls so personal they feel fused to the bone. Sıla and Halil were not immune. They carried their own battlements, each brick placed by past disappointments, by misunderstandings, by the weight of standing under bright lights while still searching for warmth. But they chose not to worship those walls. They chose to search for hairline fractures. And once they found a crack, they did not attack with fury. They pressed patiently, softly, consistently, until concrete became sand. The reason they could move mountains had a simple name. Communication, real communication. The kind that is less about waiting to speak and more about showing up to listen. There were nights when Sıla put aside the performance of I am fine and told the truth. She admitted when the room spun, when the comments stung, when the bar felt too high and her energy too low. And Halil did not rush to fix what was not his to fix. He lent presence, steady and unhurried, the kind of presence that reminds you your worth is not conditional. He offered patience. He offered belief. He offered the rare gift of someone who hears what you cannot speak. In return, Halil found in Sıla a harbor that resisted storms. He brought to the table his private insecurities, the moments when his own art felt like a question mark, the pressure to be both protector and performer without ever cracking. And she did not say be stronger, nor did she measure him against heroic myths. She made space, insisted his softness was not a flaw, and helped him hold on to the part of himself that writes and sings and believes in light even on unlit roads. This was never a passive love. It did not rest on autopilot. It demanded effort and gave return. Their partnership looked like mutual propulsion. When Sıla encountered a project that felt beyond reach, he brought an unshakable confidence that dared her to step toward the edge. He handled logistics when she needed time to think and brought laughter when the silence got too heavy. When Halil felt the itch to share more of his music or test a new creative boundary, she made the kitchen table a rehearsal space and became an audience of one who never looked away. This was love that rolled up its sleeves. And still, even the strongest hands shake. There were hard weeks, messy headlines, and misunderstandings born of exhaustion and distance. There were moments when different viewpoints did not immediately harmonize. But what set them apart was not the absence of conflict, it was the craft with which they navigated it. Instead of using difference to draw lines, they used it to draft bridges. They negotiated with grace. They learned when to bend and when to hold steady. They practiced the quiet art of circling back when words landed wrong and the courageous art of apologizing before pride had time to harden. Around them, their closest circles watched with protective eyes. No family welcomes uncertainty easily when it lands at the doorstep of someone they adore. Some friends questioned the pace, the exposure, the risk. Concern can wear the mask of skepticism. Yet time is a patient witness. As the months unfolded, their inner worlds did not shrink under scrutiny, they expanded. Friends saw two people more grounded than before, more alive, more honest. Families noticed calmer phone calls, softer edges, steadier rhythms. Skepticism transformed into respect, and respect into open support. The worried voices became cheering sections. What pulsed between them was not merely romance. It was admiration, deep and unadorned. Sıla admired Halil's quiet strength, the calm he carried into rooms fueled by noise, his instinct to find the human without turning away. She admired that his optimism was not naive, it was a choice wrestled from reality. Halil admired Sıla's courage, the way she stands after being knocked, her relentless commitment to her craft, the way she protects kindness without apologizing for ambition. This exchange of respect fueled their love like wind beneath a flame. The lessons their journey offers are tangible. Empathy, first and always, the discipline of setting aside our own echo so we can hear another person's pulse. Vulnerability, which masquerades as risk but is in truth the doorway to intimacy. Patience, the flower that blooms only with steady watering and time, a virtue often ignored by the quick hunger of public life. And unwavering support, the decision to stand shoulder to shoulder in seasons of celebration and in seasons when nothing seems to add up. These are not decorative ideas. They are tools. They are muscle and memory. What makes their bond resonate far beyond a set or a premiere is how love transformed their landscapes without asking either to become smaller. Love did not erase their individuality, it made space for both to grow. In late-night conversations, they redrew maps that once felt fixed. They chose rituals that anchored them. Maybe it was a morning text before the first call time, or a voice note sent backstage, or a silent promise kept in a glance across a crowded room. Such small acts are not small at all. They are the stitches that keep fabric from tearing when pressure rises. Do not imagine perfection. Imagine determination. When schedules collided, they wrote new ones. When gossip flared, they opted for truth over volume. When fear whispered, they named it and kept walking. Brick by brick they took down what once stood between them. Not with fireworks, but with hands that do not let go. And as many fans have sensed, as many team members have quietly confirmed, something about their presence together changes the air. There is more ease. There is more laughter. There is an unforced sense of rightness. Their story travels because it reminds us of something we keep forgetting. Love is not a miracle that appears fully formed. Love is a choice repeated. Love is practice. Love is building a home out of two histories and a future neither could write alone. If you step close, you can see the seams and the solder, the places where they were brave enough to try again. You can also see the joy, the private jokes, the long looks that say I know where you have been and I am not leaving. And if you are wondering whether love truly changes a life, look at the way they treat their craft. Creativity grows where there is safety. Risks are taken where there is trust. Success is quieter, kinder, when shared. They did not ask the world to celebrate them. They asked each other to believe. The rest followed. So what can we carry from the journey of Halil Ibrahim Sayhan and Sıla Turkoglu? We can remember to lean into empathy even when our own worries grow loud. We can dare to be transparent about the places we feel most fragile, knowing that real connection lives there. We can be patient with ourselves and with those we love, accepting that growth is not linear. And we can choose to be the person who shows up, who cheers in the bright lights and sits close in the dark. If we practice these, we will watch walls that once seemed immovable begin to crack. Their love stands like a lantern in a long corridor, not blinding, but steady, guiding those behind them step by step. It says that background does not decide destiny. It says that two different tempos can learn to dance. It says that faithfulness is louder than rumor and that kindness is stronger than any script that calls for coldness. It is a love that refuses defeat, a love that learns from friction, a love that, at full power, brings down barriers built by years of fear. Let us look back at the journey we traced today. We saw how two artists with distinct stories recognized each other in a crowded world. We saw how they refused to be distracted by outer noise and how they built something that holds. We saw the practice of communication and compassion turn into a foundation that does not shake. And we saw how that foundation supports not only their private life, but their work, their circles, their sense of purpose. Thank you for walking with us through this chapter. Stories like this are not just about fame or headlines. They are about the tenderness and grit that make love real. Tell us in the comments what part of their journey spoke to you most. Have you had a season where empathy changed everything? Have you learned to trust again after building a wall too high? We want to hear the threads of your story, because this channel is a conversation, not a monologue. If this episode moved you, if it brought you clarity or comfort, please give it a like and share it with someone who needs a reminder that hearts can heal. And if you are new here and want more narratives that honor the truth behind the spotlight, subscribe to Secrets Behind the Stars and ring that bell so you never miss a moment. Until our next video, care for yourselves, care for each other, and let love light your steps. We will be here, ready to tell the stories that prove our walls are never stronger than our will to connect.